Did you see that shit? MMA podcast. Hosted by mixed martial arts journalist Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and Chicago's number one underground comedian, Apollo Taj Mahal.
Thank you for listening. My name is Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21. I'm a mixed martial arts journalist. I currently contribute to bjpen.com, Low Kick MMA, CageSidePress.com. You could find my work there as well as my YouTube channel at aka Strauss21. And of course, the Did You See That Shit Mixed Martial Arts podcast that you are listening to right now. Here is my latest interview. I hope you enjoy it. I want to welcome back to the show Lance Palmer. Fresh off a busy night, man, at PFL 8. You had 2 fights. Did that remind you of your old wrestling days?
It did, actually, and the weirdest part about it was just instinct to get back to my wrestling just because we were fighting 2 people in one night. So it was definitely pretty cool to see. Just not even for me to fight twice in one night, just watching the whole tournament kind of find its way through that night and everybody that won and lost and stuff like that as the tournament went on. It was pretty crazy. It was cool, though.
Well, man, you looked great. You had 2 tough fights. You had Max Koga and Andre Harrison. You won both very decisively and impressively. And the Andre Harrison victory was probably, well, I'll ask you, I'm sure it was probably a little sweeter being that that was one of your losses that you actually got back now. So how did that one feel?
Yeah, definitely. It was nice to get that one back in a way just because, like I said after that fight happened the first time last March of 2017, I was like, well, I broke my hand in the first round in about the first minute and a half. And so the rest of the fight, I really had no grappling ability or anything just because my hand was so swollen. And I was trying to use it to still punch and things like that, but I just really didn't have that aspect of my game that I use so well. And they, on his side of things, they kind of were, the whole last year and a half saying that, that didn't matter. That wouldn't have changed the difference of the fight. That wouldn't have done this. That wouldn't have done that. So I wanted to just go out there and prove that was the entire difference of the fight. And that's what the difference was on Friday, too.
Yeah, man. I mean, I never disparage a fighter or anything like that. And I think Andre is one of the very best in the world, just like you. But I don't know what it is. Andre's game hasn't evolved like I would have hoped to seen it. And here you are, man. You're getting better and better and better as it goes on. And Andre's game kind of has just stayed the same, man. Do you see that too?
I did see that this entire year, and I think it was because he hasn't really had that fight where he's faced a lot of adversity. Mm-hmm. And that happened with me as well. It was earlier on in my career, and the very first fight where I faced adversity was against Georgi Karakhanyan in my very first World Series of Fighting fight where I fought for the title on short notice. And that was a guy who I felt that I was winning the fight, and then I got caught in a guillotine with like 45 seconds left in the third round, and he ended up getting me with it. And that was the first time I was like, man, I really need to keep improving, keep getting better. And I feel like sometimes people just get stagnant, and I'm not saying that he may be stagnant or not, but I think it may be something to do with it just because, don't get me wrong, he's still a great fighter. He was 20-0 before I beat him, but I feel that loss would have happened sooner if I wouldn't have broke my hand a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and it was still, man, the first Harrison fight, that was still a super close fight, even, with your broken hand. So, that would have been a totally different fight, I believe, as well. But looking ahead, man, you have $1 million fight coming up here on New Year's Eve. This is another rematch for you. You fought Steven Siler.
I fought him actually a year ago. It was the week before my wedding. It was last November 2nd. It was actually for PFL, but it was for an event that there was no TV or I think it was a stream online or something, but it was for one of the owners or investors in PFL or somebody from the DC area. They put it together every year, and it's usually a boxing match. It's like they have like all these people who donate a lot of money to be there in the room, and they sit at these tables around the fight, and it's kind of it was kind of weird because I felt like nobody was really paying attention to the fight that much, and they were just kind of hanging out. Like it was like a black tie event. and it was a bunch of people, a bunch of rich people who had donated a bunch of money to this. I think it was for like something with needy kids in the area or needy families in that area. And they raise like millions of dollars every year for it. And so you can imagine the people that are there aren't necessarily fight fans. So it was kind of a weird situation. And it was basically a cigar bar. So by the time me and Siler fought, I think we were the co-main event. It was like the whole cage was full of smoke, and it was so weird. It was a crazy situation, but I mean, even a year ago, I was like, man, Siler's always a scrappy opponent. He's always going to be there in your face, no matter how hard you hurt him. And I dropped him in the first round, and I feel that it could have been finished, but Yamasaki kept stepping in and out of the way. And by that time, after, that 5 or 10 seconds of me not being able to hit him, he kind of came to, and he's a tough dude anyways. So if you give that guy any time to recover, he's going to be fine. And, we went through the entire fight. I ended up winning the decision. I think it was 30-27 on all 3 cards, but, I mean, he's a tough son of a bitch, and I'm excited to get another fight with him.
Yeah, you're right, man. Siler is he's super tough, and he's super sneaky too with his submissions, as we saw this season in the PFL too. Because a couple of those fights he really had no business winning, and he did. So he is a slick dude. I want to ask you though, man. I saw you during the broadcast. You were watching the fights pretty intently, obviously, because this is very important to you who you're going to be fighting. And the Siler fight kind of ended in a little bit of controversy. I wanted to get your take on it, man, because it looked a little weird to me.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Well, the weird thing is it's kind of. I don't think he'll fully get the respect just because of the way that fight went down. And then the first time he fought Almeida, something very similar happened. And it was where he definitely caught Almeida with his right hand, but then Almeida shot and Siler had a guillotine on him, and the ref just stopped it without even seeing if Almeida was all right. And Almeida was literally passing the legs with his legs as they stopped that first fight. And then the second fight, that's one of those things where if you're a fighter, he's tough enough to move on. He didn't really take. His jaw wasn't broke, or it wasn't to the point of where he couldn't continue fighting. But I mean, if you're in that position and you feel that maybe that's the only way out to get to the next round, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to take anything from him because I know how tough he is, and I know that's not something that he would normally do. So that was kind of weird to me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the business of trashing anybody, but all I'm gonna say on it is. It kind of looked like he was overdoing it a little bit, and I've seen guys continue with far, and I'm not saying, maybe he was hurt very bad, but it sure looked like he could have continued. But either way, we're going to get a hell of a fight between you and him. I know there's going to be a decisive end in your fight, man, because you bring it 110% every single time, man, and I can't wait. We had this conversation, man, when you were in Chicago about a potential $1 million fight, and you didn't even want to think about it, but here you are, man. Have you allowed yourself to kind of think about the money now?
Yeah, I mean, I've put myself in that position, and a lot of things can happen from now to then. We have to get to that cage, and somebody has to not be injured, and everything has to go correctly. So I don't really think too far forward to it, but I'm really excited to be in this position to be the first champion of PFL's new structure, you could say. So it's one of those things where I'm excited for that because I was with WSOF for so long, and I was a champ for them for so long, and I kind of stuck with them through this transition period when nobody really thought or knew that this was really going to happen or not. So we're here now, and I was the first finalist ever for the PFL season. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to be the first champion for PFL.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man. You deserve everything that's about to come your way for sure. Before I let you go, man, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about this last weekend here between McGregor and Khabib. What did you think about that whole melee, man?
I mean, when it comes down to it, it's one of those things where, I mean, everybody has their agreements and disagreements on it, whether it was right or wrong. And obviously it wasn't right, But when you think about all the things that have built up, and Khabib has done a great job this over the last year, really, where he never really came out of pocket. He never really said anything out of control, and kind of kept his cool the whole time until the fight was over. And you got to go all the way back to when the dolly was thrown at the bus, when Khabib had a title fight the next day. All that stuff built up led to this point. And I can't really knock him for that. He did. I mean, first he mauled McGregor in the entire fight, which I saw it going that direction as long as he didn't get caught with any left hands. And other than that, it was one of those things where you're just like, man, you got to let this guy vent a little bit, because he was just, they let Conor do whatever he wants, and Dana used it to promote the fight, and that was what was wrong out of everything, using the dolly and all that stuff to promote the fight when a bunch of people who work for the UFC and fight for the UFC got hurt on that bus. And there's a lot of different things that could have gone even worse than they did. And he decided to use that as a promotion for this fight. And that's where he went wrong the first time. But I mean, it's definitely not right to jump out of the cage and attack somebody, but Conor jumped out of the cage and went after Aldo, after one of his fights back in the day before him and Aldo fought. So it didn't happen the same way, because obviously Russians are a lot different. You talk about somebody's religion, family, things like that. There's going to be repercussions whether you like it or not. That's a whole different world over there.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, man. And you're right. Khabib did a great job during the whole build-up at kind of being stoic, and it did. It just looked like, it was a release at the end. And you can't really fault the guy too much, as you said, man, because, Conor does what he does and gets away with it, and there's never any repercussions. So it kind of sets that precedent.
For sure.
I appreciate your time, Lance. I know that you're super busy, especially just coming off of that big night that you just had. Best of luck to you, man. I'm super excited for you. I want to give you some time here, shout out your coaches, sponsors, whatever you'd like, man. Floor is yours.
I definitely want to thank all my new coaching staff at Extreme Couture and Coach Casey over at 10th Planet, Las Vegas, Eric Nixick at Extreme. All those guys took me in like I was one of their own in March when I first started coming out to train in Vegas, and it's been a refreshing start for me, and it's definitely been good so far for this year. And my sponsors, Beat Kicks, Defense Soap, and everybody else, my friends, my family, my wife, people who don't really understand it that much, don't know that I live in Ohio and I've spent about half of this year away from my family and friends to get to this point. So I'm spending this month at home, and then I'll be back after Benavidez fights in Denver for the November 10th UFC card. I'll be back from then all the way until New Year's Eve for my finals fight. So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this. So it's not just about the money, but for the love of the sport and also loving what you do. So I definitely take that very seriously.
Absolutely, well put. Are you going to be in Denver for the Benavidez fight by chance?
Yeah, I'm cornering Joe, so I'll be there that whole week.
All right, I might be there too. I submitted my credentials, and I'm waiting for them to get back to me. So we might meet again there.
There you go. That's awesome.
And your dad, he deserves a reality show. Your dad needs a reality show, man, for sure.
Dude, that guy he's on another level all the time. Everybody loves it.
Dude, seriously, that man needs a camera following him 24/7 because he is super entertaining, dude.
Oh, he needs a camera just in everyday life, because he has the weirdest shit happen to him that it's like, if I explained it, you wouldn't even believe that it really happened. It's hilarious. It's like every single day, too. It's so damn funny.
All right, man. Well, take care, Lance. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
It's time